Thomas Tuchel's England squad has been released, and albeit I am extremely happy to have him at the helm for the upcoming couple of tournaments, I've got thoughts about the squad selection. Welcome, Blue Believers, to another episode of the Stamford Sync, but today we are syncing up with everything England. So, as we all know, Thomas Tuchel, England manager. Now, if you're a Chelsea fan, you were probably buzzing about that because you saw what he did with our particularly uninspiring team in order to take us to the Champions League, right? So before we get into the squad and where I think some rash decisions might have been made, there's a couple of things I want to get off my chest off the bat. I, for one, absolutely buzzing that Thomas Tuchel was hired as the England manager. I know that there was a lot of uncertainty around not hiring an English manager, but for me, it's just one of them, innit? Like, you know, a lot of other countries use managers not from their native country, like Brazil. I've got Carlo Ancelotti at the moment. It's not particularly uncommon for good teams to go in with managers that aren't from their home country. It does happen a lot as well, like the French managers are normally French and the German managers are normally German, but it doesn't happen across the board. The other thing is, look, it's the Gareth Southgate thing, right? I think what I'm absolutely not doing and will never do is take away from what Gareth Southgate achieved with that team, because we were awful at tournaments for a really, really long time. And, you know, he came in and he built a new culture and he did what no other manager has managed to do in a really long time, getting us to consistent quarterfinals, semi-finals and finals across the board. So, although I'm not taking away from what Gareth Southgate did achieve, I do think what ultimately was missing to get us over the line, to get us a trophy and bring it home, was tactical nous, right? And when I say that, I can give you a pointed example. Things like I think that might have cost us in the last tournament. Playing Kieran Trippier at right back and playing Phil Foden as a left winger who basically constantly drifted into the middle and very rarely actually played as a left winger. You got two issues with that. The first thing is, well, they're basically two issues that create one issue, is our left wing was just dead, right? We just literally, you know, Phil Foden spent so long on the ball, but we weren't getting into dangerous attacking positions off the left in general because Kieran Trippier is not a natural left footer. So he was turning and cutting in, and Phil Foden was drifting into the middle. So we just lost any attacking impetus from that side, right? And there was some things like in the Euros final against Italy, bringing on three young lads to take your penalties right at the end of the game. You know, there's just been a couple of things that Gareth Southgate did across the board that showed that maybe tactically he wasn't the right guy. Albeit, like I say, I'm not taking away from what he achieved. It's been great being an England fan for the last couple of tournaments because we've done really well. But I do believe that Thomas Tuchel is the kind of guy that we needed to try and get us over the line, right? We know he's good at squad culture because, like I say, look what he did with that Chelsea team in the Champions League. His English is absolutely phenomenal. He's a big character and we know that he's very tactically astute. So just off the bat, very happy with Thomas Tuchel and ultimately looking forward to going into this tournament. But let's have a little look at the England squad that has been picked. So here it is. We're just going to go through it first and then I'm going to circle back and talk about some players that I think is weird that have been omitted, and I would absolutely love to know what you guys think about all of this in the comments. So the England squad for the World Cup 2026 is as follows. Goalkeepers: Jordan Pickford, Dean Henderson and James Trafford. Look, Jordan Pickford is going to play every minute of every game. Let's be completely honest, that's just what's going to happen. I was a little bit like, not sure about James Trafford because he hasn't played a lot, but at the end of the day, very unlikely to get on the pitch anyway. So instantly off the bat, goalkeepers, it's going to be Jordan Pickford, isn't it? Like, whatever, that's fine, that's cool. He's obviously been amazing for us for a long time now. And I think him and Harry Kane are the two most important players on the pitch. The bookends, if we can score goals with Harry and stop them going in with Jordan Pickford, I think we have a good chance of doing something. So defenders, Reece James, the only Chelsea player to make it into the squad. That will be what it will be. I've had some discussions with you guys already about that. Tino Livramento, one of the questions I've got. Mark Gurhey, absolutely, England's best defender, bar none at the moment. Ezri Konsa, yep, happy with that. Jarell Quansah has had a reasonably good season at Leverkusen. Nico O'Reilly, absolutely yes. Dan Burn, a bit weird, like, but he has been featuring, you know, Thomas Tuchel obviously likes him. And Jed Spence, who is one of the guys that I've got some questions about. Moving into the midfield, Declan Rice, obviously, Premier League winner, absolutely phenomenal, one of their most important players this season and a great player for England. Elliot Anderson, get it, having a great season, albeit Nottingham Forest didn't finish particularly strongly. Elliot Anderson is an amazing player and is probably going to go for a crazy amount of money after the World Cup's finished. Jude Bellingham, yep, get it, can turn a game on its head, even if he doesn't always look like he contributes to. That was kind of my issue with Jude Bellingham in the last few tournaments. Like, he'll come out of nowhere and score you a really important goal, and that's super important, but he didn't always look like he was contributing to the rest of the play in general. Maybe that's going to be different under Tuchel. Jordan Henderson, He's played a lot for Brentford this season. Brentford have finished really, really well. So, yeah, I kind of get it. And we do need experience because there's a lot of young players in this team. So I hope he doesn't play that much, to be completely honest. But at the same time, like, I don't love it. You know, I'd much rather have seen like an Adam Wharton or something get in that spot just for technical ability. But, you know, it's one of them. And Tuchel needs his figures in the dressing room and on the pitch as much as he needs like the players on the pitch, right? Morgan Rogers, yeah, cool. Love Morgan Rogers. Kobbie Mainoo, yeah, get it. Had an absolutely great season and has played quite well for England when he's been chosen already. A bit light in the midfield though. Forwards, Harry Kane. Who else? It was always going to be Harry Kane. If we're going to do well in this tournament, it's going to be because Harry Kane is playing and hopefully not dropping deep all of the time, because that was one of the issues before as well. Ivan Toney. I have questions. Now, and I've looked into all of this stuff. I mean, off the bat, it seems a bit weird, but he has had a phenomenal season in Saudi Arabia, but we will get onto all that in a minute. Ollie Watkins kind of lit up towards the end of the season, and, you know, I imagine he'd be the second choice. If Harry Kane were to come off or get injured or something, it'd probably be Ollie Watkins. Bukayo Saka, yeah, obviously Bukayo Saka, totally get that. Noni Madueke, I have questions. Marcus Rashford, yeah, brilliant for Barcelona. Probably going to play left wing as well, but, you know, that's where he's been playing for Barcelona. He's in really, really good form and, you know, on his day, absolutely brilliant player. Anthony Gordon, yeah, I get it. And Eberechi Eze, also get it. You know, not had an absolutely phenomenal season, but on his day, like, phenomenal player and has played well for England. So, that's the squad. And it just feels a little bit underwhelming, doesn't it? Like a little bit underwhelming. Now, I'm going to go through a lot of the players that have been omitted, and we're going to kind of just talk about whether they should have been or not. And, you know, it's easy to think it off the bat, like, oh, where's that player? And then we compare the stats, and maybe once or twice it actually does kind of make sense. But just seeing the squad, I am a little bit like, that's a shame. Like, you've got your big hitters, your Harry Kane, Jordan Pickford, Jude Bellingham, Bukayo Saka. But outside of that, it starts to feel a little bit like, oh, do you know what I mean? It's, you know, it doesn't feel like a team of heavy hitters. And even in the last few tournaments with Gareth Southgate, we definitely had that. But a lot of that squad has kind of aged up now, haven't they? So we're going to get into some comparisons, some season comparisons of players that have been omitted and ones that I want to talk about. The first one is John Stones. John Stones getting chosen, I think, is probably the biggest thing that people are talking about at the moment. And largely because, now, if you're a City fan, again, obviously this is going to be completely different for you. And if you are a City fan and in the brief time that he's appeared for you this season, you think John Stones has been absolutely phenomenal and undroppable, fair enough. Now, I almost hate to make this comparison, but the player I've chosen to compare him with, who has been omitted, is Harry Maguire. Really, really surprised that Harry Maguire hasn't made the cut. So, let's have a little look at the stats, right? At the top here, you have got John Stones, who has been chosen, and underneath him, you've got Harry Maguire. John Stones has played 18 games for Man City this season, and albeit he's performed quite well in cup competitions, which they did win 2 of, I guess, he's contributed to that, hasn't really played 90 minutes very often. So he's being brought on as a sub, or he's starting and not making the whole game. In the Premier League, he only made 9 appearances this season out of 38. And he's just been injured. Like, and look at the 9 appearances. Like, you know, he's been playing like average like 40, 45 minutes a game, something like that. So he's, you know, it just seems a bit wild to me. He's got a reasonably good rating. Like, you know, I've got all of these off Sofa scores. 6.94 is good for, you know, a player that has made this many appearances. But at the same time, it's like, he hasn't played that often, man. And the instant thought, like I say, is you go to Harry Maguire, who feels like he's been important for Man United. But not only just that, he's been important for England for the last few tournaments as well. Big character in the changing room. And what it obviously means is Tommy Tuchel just doesn't like him. So when we look at Harry Maguire's stats underneath, Harry Maguire is less than I thought, actually. I thought Harry Maguire would play more games than this season. He's played 25 games. He's got 2 goals and 2 assists. 23 appearances in the Premier League compared to John Stones' 9. Now, this is where the caveats start to come in, right? Because although their amount of games seem relative, there's only 7 games different, right? The thing you need to consider is Man City have, for the majority of the season, have been in for competition. So John Stones has had the ability to play a lot more cup games and a lot more other competitions in general. And you can see that just based on the fact that Harry Maguire has played 23 Premier League games and wasn't really featuring that for them in the cup. Harry Maguire got a goal and 2 assists in the Premier League. 2 assists, wild for Harry Maguire, and got 1 goal in the EFL Cup. And that was towards the start of the season. Obviously, Man United got launched out of everything at the start of the season. And one of the reasons they've done so well is because they've only had one game a week for like the last 6 months or whatever. So they've been able to really focus and train. So for me, although the stats don't look that different, the caveat there is that Harry Maguire has been a mainstay in a really successful season for Man United, where they dragged themselves from like bottom half of the table up to Champions League spots. And he's also played for us in the last few tournaments as well. And John Stones has been very injured this season. Now, I like John Stones. John Stones is an absolutely great player. But if you're thinking about bringing a guy, I don't know. It just seems a bit wild to me, man. It just seems a bit wild to me. Like, and I don't even really like Harry Maguire. Like, I remember groaning a few times seeing Harry Maguire in the last few tournaments. But at the same time, I do think he's proved himself on the international stage, because this thing that I'm talking about now, John Stones getting picked without playing very much, that exact thing happened to Harry Maguire under Gareth Southgate as well. He wasn't really playing, but he still got taken to the tournament and still played really well. So maybe that same thing happens with John Stones. But Harry Maguire has been playing. He has been important for, and don't get me wrong, like City finished second, but John Stones wasn't a big part of that, was he? Like, 9 appearances in the Premier League and he barely played half of each of those games. Harry Maguire has played a lot for Man United and been an important part. And, I don't know. It just seems a little bit wild to me. It just seems a little bit wild. As much as I'm not a huge fan of Harry Maguire, in general, I would prefer John Stones as a player, but I think it's the nuance and the minutiae of the detail that say, it just seems off the face of it that picking Harry Maguire was probably a better shout. But if it is just about a stylistic thing like John Stones is, much less of like a bullyish, brutish defender than Harry Maguire is. He's a very good passer and very astute and that kind of thing. And if that's something that Thomas Tuchel thinks he's going to want to rely on, then fair enough. But for me, it feels like Harry Maguire's missed out here, and I'm worried that England might miss out because we're taking John Stones. Do you know what I mean? It's like, does John Stones come on and change a game? We know Harry Maguire can come on and change a game. And again, as much as I hate to say it, because I'm not a huge fan of him, just in this context, seems a little bit weird. Let me know what you think about that in the comments. So next up, I'm going to put my biased Chelsea fan hat on, and we're going to talk about Noni Madueke and Cole Palmer. Here are the stats. Noni Madueke obviously has just been part of winning the Premier League with Arsenal, so you can't take that away from him. And Cole Palmer has been part of one of the most abject Chelsea seasons in recent memory. Well, the most abject in recent memory, even though we finished lower. It just feels like the whole season has tailed off in such a way, whereas at the end of that season it wasn't quite as bad, was it? So, looking at Noni Madueke, 42 appearances, 8 goals, 3 assists. 26 appearances in the Premier League, 3 goals and 1 assist. 9 appearances in the Champions League, and they are in the final of that as well, which I guess can't be discounted. And scoring 3 goals in the Champions League is quite impressive. 2 goals, 2 assists in the FA Cup, 3 appearances in the EFL Cup, nothing. It just seems to me like Bukayo Saka and Noni Madueke are quite similar types of players, but Bukayo Saka's much, much better at it. So in my mind, I would have taken Cole Palmer, even though his form hasn't... This is the thing. Cole Palmer's form hasn't been as good, but he's still gotten better numbers than Noni Madueke in a worse team and, in a much, much worse season. So that in itself says something, doesn't it? So we look at Cole Palmer's stats here. 34 appearances, 11 goals and 3 assists, 10 in the Premier League, 1 assist in the Premier League, 1 goal and 2 assists in the Champions League in 4 appearances. So Cole Palmer has taken a reasonable amount of penalties. I guess it's probably like 4 or 5 penalties, isn't it? And Madueke won't be on penalty duty, that's almost for sure. But at the same time, it's like we saw what Cole Palmer did in that, the Euros final against Spain. Scored the only goal. If you're, Bukayo Saka's going to be the starting right-sided attacker, isn't he? That's just what's going to happen. And that completely makes sense. But if you want to bring someone on to change the game, do you bring on Noni Madueke or do you bring on Cole Palmer? For me, Cole Palmer is that mercurial wizard kind of player that can make something happen out of nowhere. And he's not been doing that recently. And that's kind of what Thomas Tuchel came out and said about it, to be honest. But at the same time, I'm like, look at the stats, man. Do you know what I mean? Cole Palmer... I don't know, it just seems like if you want to change the game, like if we're losing or we're in a bad place or we need a goal, you bring on Cole Palmer to change the game. And I guess Noni Madueke, because he's very athletic and he's a good runner, and that's kind of a lot of how Arsenal have been playing this season, isn't it? It's not been about flashy attacking play, it's been about good defending and stopping opposing attacks. Maybe that suits Thomas Tuchel's style a little bit more. Maybe we're going to play a little bit more of a defensive, robust type of football to get us through the tournament, and he's going to rely less on the mercurial wizardry of players in order to get us through games. So, again, for me, let me know what you think about that one in the comments. Personally, and this is probably just my Chelsea bias showing. That's the truth, isn't it? That's the truth. But even just looking at the stats, I'm like, Cole Palmer, we know he can make something happen. Cole Palmer admittedly has had a bad season and still done better than Noni Madueke. And like I say, for me, it's like Bukayo Saka's going to play. And I would put Bukayo Saka in front of Cole Palmer, 100%. Of course I would. That absolutely makes sense. But it just feels like if you want to change the game, Cole Palmer's the guy to do it. And maybe he's gone, like I say, maybe he's gone with Noni Madueke because he's going to run more and he's willing to defend more and stuff. But I don't necessarily think you rely on Noni Madueke to score you the winning goal in a World Cup final, do you? All right, next up, bit of a wild one. Jed Spence and Lewis Hall. Lewis Hall being left out of this World Cup squad seems crazy to me. Absolutely crazy. Especially when you consider the backup left back that we're bringing is right-footed and not a natural left back. So we've got Jed Spence at the top and we've got Lewis Hall underneath. Jed Spence has played at Tottenham this season, who finished 17th. He barely scraped out of getting relegated. He's played 44 games across all of the season, no goals, no assists. So he's not an attacking output guy. He's got 6.56 rating, which isn't super, super high or anything like that. Then we look at Lewis Hall, 46 games across all competitions, the same in the Premier League, 1 goal, 1 assist, natural left back. I understand Nico Riley is going to be the starting left back, and 100% he should be. I really, really hope he is. If Jed Spence is the starting left back at the World Cup and Nico Riley's on the bench, there will be riots. Nico Riley looks like such a good player, and he's big and he's strong and he's versatile. I'm buzzing to see Nico Riley in the squad, and I'm really excited to see what he can do with us. 100% I am. But Jed Spence, and the thing is, there's some other players we're going to get into here as well. And the thing is, Jed Spence, I guess the thing with Jed Spence is it's like bringing a right back or a left back. As we're going to get into in a minute, the backup right back option, not particularly good either. So it just seems like a wild shout. He must absolutely love Jed Spence. And this is one of those things, isn't it? Because one of the issues we had with Gareth Southgate was he's always choosing players based on whether they're in top 6 teams or if they're playing in the Premier League. Like, you know, Fikayo Tomori got omitted after playing really well with AC Milan and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? Where it's, I think they won the league, didn't they, at one point, and he still got omitted from one of the squads. Gareth Southgate definitely seemed to be top 6 Premier League, let's go. But I do like the fact that Thomas Tuchel is looking a lot more out. So, like, you know, Kwanzaa, for instance, is an interesting one, playing at Bayer Leverkusen. I do like that in general, because that says that I'm not just picking top 6 teams and big names. But there's a limit, right? Tommy, there's a limit. Jed Spence nearly got relegated with Tottenham. And in those 44 games he played, he didn't manage any attacking output at all. Just the Lewis Hall thing, man. Like, Lewis Hall just looks like such a good player. And I don't really have a Chelsea bias towards it. Yeah, he used to be a Chelsea player. But just looking at the profiles in general, Nico Riley should start, but if Nico Riley is injured or needs to be subbed off, or we just need a little, you know, fresh legs coming from that side, because that seems to be a good attacking outlet for us, Lewis Hall just seems to be a better option. And I would really like to know what you think about that in the comments. Like I say, I'm totally happy with Nico Riley being our starting left back. Jed Spence over Lewis Hall, and one of the other guys we're going to get into, to be completely honest, seems wild to me. Let me know what you think. Right, next up, from the Newcastle player that didn't make it to the one that did. I don't get this either. It's so wild. We're going to talk about Tino Livramento being chosen ostensibly over Trent Alexander-Arnold. So I guess at the face of it, it's a profile thing, right? Because Trent Alexander-Arnold is a very specific type of right back. He plays his best football as like a very creative attacking right back. And at the end of the day, as far as right back goes, Reece James is going to be the guy, isn't he? Reece James is 100% going to be the guy. So fair enough. I get that in terms of, like, you know, the backup is less important, but I do think depth is important. Tino Livramento has played 26 games in the whole season and got 1 assist, which already is less games and less attacking output than Lewis Hall made, by the way. So again, absolutely wild. Trent Alexander-Arnold has played 30 games for Real Madrid, got 5 assists, and 1 of those came in the Champions League. So we're talking about backups here, right? And again, maybe this is my thing, because, you know, I sort of mentioned the same thing about Cole Palmer and Noni Madueke. Like, if you're trying to bring on someone to change a game, I feel like Trent Alexander-Arnold, you might be able to get him to bomb up the wing and whip a beautiful cross in and get it on the end of like a Harry Kane or Ollie Watkins, or even an Ivan Toney, for instance. Tino Livramento, I don't know. It just doesn't seem to make much sense to me. It must just be like a profile thing. Like I say, Tino Livramento is probably going to be much more of like a robust kind of right back, a defending guy, rather than Trent Alexander-Arnold, who, the conversation has always been about Trent's defending, right? We always talk about Trent Alexander-Arnold can't defend. It's not that he can't. He's not definitely a defensive first right back, which I guess is kind of what you want. And like I say, what some of these weird omissions seem to be pointing to is that Thomas Tuchel is not looking for players to bring on to change games. He's looking for people that can shore up. So, what I hope that means is that we go big on the attack in the early parts of the game, score the goals that we need to, and then if we do make changes, it's not because we're chasing a game, it's because we want to protect our lead. That sounds great in theory, but even from that, like Tino Livramento missed a lot of the season through injury, only 17 Premier League appearances. I don't know, man. I don't know. It seems like a bit of a wild one to me. So I do kind of get it with the Trent thing, but at the same time, it's like I'd probably have understood more if we'd have brought Jed Spence as a backup because he's played so many games at the very least, and he is a natural right back. So if we'd have brought Jed Spence as a natural right back, as a backup to Reece James, and then brought Lewis Hall as the backup left back, like that still would have made sense to me. The full-back permutations, I think, are very, very, very odd. And, Tommy, in Tommy we trust. Do you know what I mean? Absolutely, in Tommy we trust. I'd love to have a conversation with you guys about the full-back thing in particular. It seems wild to me. Ultimately, I'm really happy with the idea of Reece James on one side, Nico O'Reilly on the other. That in itself makes sense to me. But the backups in Jed Spence and Tino Livramento over the likes of Lewis Hall, Trent Alexander-Arnold, or even a permutation where you take Lewis Hall and Jed Spence, because Jed Spence played 44 games, so he can obviously stay fit for an entire season, which is really good as well. Let me know what you think about the fullback situation, guys. I expect this one to generate some interesting conversation. Right, the last one we're going to talk about, this isn't necessarily one that I saw it and I was like, but it's a conversation I've had with some people, so I wanted to raise it anyway. We're going to talk about Ivan Toney being chosen over Dominic Calvert-Lewin, who played at Leeds and had a good season at Leeds this year. 100% he did. So with Ivan Toney, the thing is, he went to Saudi. And albeit, we'll get into the stats in a second, he's had a phenomenal season, like a really, really, really good season at Saudi. Does that translate to the level, right? Because if we're just comparing stats and we're just comparing figures, Ivan Toney absolutely batters Dominic Calvert-Lewin. There's not even a question. But is it the same? Like, there's a thing with the Golden Boot, isn't there? Like, the Golden Boot is calculated. Like, people get more points for scoring goals in harder leagues. So if you score 100 goals in the Turkish second division or whatever, that's not the same as scoring 20 goals in the Premier League or 20 goals in La Liga, because they actually do. There's like a hierarchical structure about how many points a goal is worth based in different leagues. Now, I don't know what that is for Saudi Arabia, but the initial question is like, Ivan Toney has been playing in Saudi Arabia, albeit very, very well, but is that going to translate to the big picture, or is it going to be a bit of a shock when he comes to play big international teams with big international defenders and they're a little bit harder to score past? So let's get into the stats. Ivan Toney in the Saudi Pro League this season and its associated other competitions, 48 games, that's a lot. 41 goals and 11 assists, 52 GA. That's mental. Like, that's crazy. He's the highest scoring England forward this season. Do you know what I mean? It's absolutely wild. He scored more goals and got more GA than Harry Kane did. But this is what I mean. It's kind of the proof is in the pudding there. Is like, is anyone having the conversation that Ivan Toney is a better option than Harry Kane? No, we're not. So I do find it unusual. Now, if we look at Dominic Calvert-Lewin, because like I say, this is a conversation I had with a few guys. 39 games, 15 goals and 1 assist in all competitions, 14 goals and 1 assist in the Premier League. That's really good. João Pedro got 15 goals in the Premier League, and we're talking about what an absolute hero he is. The question here is, are Dominic Calvert-Lewin's 14 goals in the Premier League more impressive than Ivan Toney's 32 in the Saudi Pro League? And I don't know the answer to that question, to be honest. Like, form is such an important thing. If Ivan Toney is feeling great and feeling really, really confident, I'm not saying he's going to come in and score 15 goals in the World Cup, do you know what I mean? But does that confidence translate to good performances regardless of where you've been? And you would have to think yes to an extent, because, teams that win the World Cup aren't always full of Premier League teams, are they, at the end of the day? They're full of players that play in lots of different countries all over the world. The Argentina squad wasn't full of Premier League players when they won the World Cup. And it's just one of those, isn't it? So there is maybe some sort of argument there to say that regardless of what league you're playing in, to an extent, You know, because the Saudi Pro League does have lots of good players in it, albeit, you know, kind of aging ones. Maybe Ivan Toney's confidence from an absolutely phenomenal season where he's scoring goals for fun can translate to some good form in the World Cup. And he's not going to be starting, is he, either? We're talking about bringing him on as a backup. And he did pretty well in that respect. You know, I think he came on and scored at least once in the Euros, didn't he? So, you know, maybe there is a thing there. He is older, he's experienced, but all of our strikers are 30 plus now. And Dominic Calvert-Lewin, I think, is like 27, 28, so just kind of in the prime of his career. So the question for me, this isn't one I have a massive opinion on. This is really a question I want to put out there to you guys. Are Ivan Toney's stats in the Saudi Pro League more beneficial to the England squad as him being a backup striker than Dominic Calvert-Lewin's are in the Premier League this season? And he has had a really good season. So let me know what you think about that one in the comments. And there is one more player I want to talk about. I don't have a comparison for this one because, if I'm completely honest, I am reasonably happy with the centre attacking midfield options that we've brought. Jude Bellingham, Eberechi Eze, Morgan Rogers. Cool, these are good players. Also, the midfield looks a bit light, so I do feel like we could be seeing a back three quite a lot as well. And maybe Morgan Rogers and Eberechi Eze playing like the left half space. And Gordon kind of seems to, you know, we've got right wingers, but it's actually a strange mix, isn't it? It looks like we could be mixing it up formation-wise. But doesn't it seem criminal to leave out Morgan Gibbs-White, who has had a phenomenal season? Oh, mate, look at these stats, man. 53 games played this season. That's a lot. Like, you know, that is trusted beyond. 18 goals and 7 assists in all competitions, 15 goals and 4 assists in the Premier League, 3 goals, 3 assists in the Europa League. He only featured 1 apiece in the FA Cup and EFL Cup, so they're kind of not really important there. But he's scoring and assisting in decent European level competition, and he smashed it in the Premier League. I mean, I guess there's an argument for like goal padding or whatever, because he did score a hat trick, you know. So, but at the same time, it's the Premier League, man. Scoring 15 goals in the Premier League as an attacking midfielder is crazy, and he's getting to assists as well. So this is a really tough one for me. Like I say, I haven't got anyone to compare him to in terms of, like, you know, I think that he's arguably had a better season than the likes of Eberechi Eze and Morgan Rogers. But I don't know, I'm happy with Morgan Rogers and Eberechi Eze in particular, and Jude Bellingham. Do you know what I mean? It's like I'm not unhappy to see these guys in the squad, and I don't have like questions. I didn't see their names and was like, oh my God, why are they going? But I did just see a distinct lack of Morgan Gibbs-White and be like, and I guess that's the question, isn't it? Because it's like, who'd you leave out? I've heard a couple of people say we should have taken him over Anthony Gordon. And I do understand that because he's had such a good season. But at the same time, Anthony Gordon represents an actual left wing option if we do want to play a formation that needs a left winger. And Marcus Rashford obviously plays there as well. And do we overload on centre attacking midfielders? And what we seem to have done is brought loads of defenders. And that's what makes me think we're probably going to play 3 at the back. But I just think, I don't know, it just seems like a wild shout to leave out a player in such good form, and he's robust as well. He's not just like a fancy attacking player, like he gets stuck in and he can make a tackle, he can press really well. Morgan Gibbs-White has had a phenomenal season, and I just think it's a bit of a travesty that he's not going. And like I say, although unlike with the other guys where I've been like, oh, well, you know, it was easy to kind of pick out comparisons, with this one it's a little bit less like that, and it's like, shouldn't we have just found some way to get him into the squad in general? So guys, that is it. That is my rant about the England World Cup squad and my thoughts on it. I think, for the most part, what the story is about, especially about all the comparisons that I've made, is I've got questions about depth rather than first team. I'm relatively happy with the majority of the players that we're going to have in the first team, and I think it looks like we've got a really, really strong squad. You know, Marcus Rashford has had a great season. I imagine him going to be starting a lot of games. Obviously, Harry Kane is absolutely phenomenal. Bukayo Saka, a big part of winning Arsenal the league. You know, Declan Rice and Jude Bellingham, obviously phenomenal players on their day. The defence may be a little bit suspect, but we just don't have loads of options. I do think the John Stones thing is absolutely wild. Let me know what you think about that. But in general, I think we've got a good starting 11. My issue seems to be, especially after making this video now and, you know, seeing it all laid out in front of me, that I'm just a little bit concerned about what happens when we need to bring someone else on. What happens when we're chasing a game? Who do we bring on that's going to change the game? And that doesn't seem to be what Thomas Tuchel's looking for. Thomas Tuchel seems to have filled our depth with players that can be robust and hopefully protect leads. That's what it looks like to me. Either way, I'd love to know what you think about it. So guys, I'm going to start wrapping it up there. But what I haven't said yet is, if you guys have enjoyed today's episode of the Stamford Sync, please do me the distinct honour of liking and sharing the video, subscribe to the channel, or just roast me in the comments, whatever gets you through your day. Nice one, guys. I hope you enjoyed my first England World Cup coded episode of the Stamford Sync. There's going to be a few over the summer. It's going to be a good time either way. Let's go. It's coming home, England. I hope you're all having an absolutely wicked day, and I'll catch up with you very, very soon. Take it easy. Peace.